So, hello everyone. My name's James Morgan, and I'm the Vice President of Enterprise Sales here at Juniper Networks. I'm delighted that today joining me is Daryl Alder, who's the Network Architect at Aston Martin Lagonda. And Daryl, our two companies have got a very similar approach to innovation, continually pushing the boundaries to deliver true competitive advantage to our customers through engineering excellence and simplicity. And Aston Martin is already a well-established Juniper customer with deployments across its major manufacturing, administration, and customer-facing sites. Daryl, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Great, thank you.
So to kick things off, maybe could you give me an overview of Aston Martin and your role in particular?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. So my role at Aston Martin is as a network architect. So I'm responsible for all of the internal connectivity, both wired and wireless. So that's all servers, devices, end users, that kind of thing. And I look after the LAN and the WAN side as well. So obviously all the geographic sites and all the sort of campus connections as well. My role involves being the technical lead for the network team, so a point of escalation. That's sort of monitoring the junior engineers, but also advising senior management on new networking technologies, strategies, and how that's suitable for Aston Martin going forward.
Our mission is all around experience first networking. Can you explain, just take a minute or two, as to how you're delivering an exceptional experience for the business and its users?
Sure, no worries. I mean, so the complexities of the network and in fact IT in general, it needs to be somewhat hidden from the end users. So at the end of the day, we're not an IT company. Aston Martin is all about luxury automotive. So the more we can detach that complexity from end users, the more focused and productive they can be on their day-to-day jobs. So the data centers we have, for example, we plan to make greater use of them, but ultimately the end users don't need to know how a data center works. They just need to know that their application is available, it's fast, and it just works. So there's that really. It's sort of detaching away from that so that they can experience the connectivity, experience the network is a facilitator then to their end game.
Yeah. Sure. And of course, during 2020, which was an incredibly difficult year for individuals and businesses alike, but can you sort of maybe give some examples as to how you were able to fundamentally, make things work and pivot to that kind of what was the new environment, but many are calling the current environment and the ongoing one. But yeah,
sure, no worries. So IT is all about problem solving, right? So whilst the business is generally not been an off-site style of business, obviously you can't build a car from home. So the general sort of culture at Aston Martin has been, working within an office. However, IT themselves have always had the technical ability to work remotely. To give you an example, changes out of hours need to be done to lessen the impact on production, for example. So IT staff have always had that ability to dial in, whether that's VPN or site-to-site VPN connection or whatever. So IT's always had that technical ability. So when we went into the sort of new way of working, when everyone sort of started working from home, it was fairly trivial just to sort of scale that up for all the end users, because we already had that base line in place. We could just turn up the tap really and expand that to all users. I think it was a little bit of a sort of a culture shift for a lot of end users that just weren't used to that, and maybe just not so much the technical side of it, but the kind of workflow, the work process. If you've been working in the office for a long time, you're used to things set up in a certain way. So, for example, if the finance department had an end of month process that they ran, but they had to go through a VPN first, there was just that little extra hop that they would have to work through. So in the beginning, it was quite tricky, but it was only because it was sort of the first time we saw a process, the first end of month, the first end of quarter, that sort of thing. And now we're a year on, it's just not that new anymore. So people kind of get it now. It's been challenging, but that's what we're here for at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a case of kind of transforming and pivoting to that environment and that scenario. How would you classify where you are in your networking journey with Juniper in particular, of course, and what your plans are going forward and what that will look like?
Right. So local switching at each site is based on the Juniper platform. We use the EX4300s. There's absolutely no plans to change that right now. It absolutely suits us perfectly. The key for us is the scalability that platform offers. We very often get projects that either expand or contract, and we don't get that much notice either. So where we thought a site might house 10 users, it's suddenly 20 or 30 or 40. It scales up. So that platform's great for that sort of thing, just scaling up and back down again. But not only the scalability, having the unified code base, the unified configuration. I've often said we're a very small team, so to have that ability of transferring configurations between sites, between platforms, well, not even platforms because it's only a single platform, right? So to take a configuration template, for example, and deploy those is relatively straightforward. So that's key for us. Other thing for Juniper and our journey is wireless is becoming absolutely business critical. I think there was a time 5-10 years ago when wireless was a nice to have. Unfortunately, that's just not the case now. An outage in wireless or even a degraded service is absolutely impacting. It has huge impacts for the business. It can stop production or it can seriously degrade certain targets. And so the current wireless system that we have is it's okay, it works, but it doesn't really provide the insights and the analytics to be able to say, oh, okay, we've got a potential problem here. How about we start, moving things around a little bit, start deploying maybe an access point here or moving it around. We just don't have that analytics right now. And so some of the cloud-based controllers that are coming out, it makes sense. It reduces that site dependency, so moves the controllers away from that complexity, and it just makes sense for the business, really. So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, customers tell me time and time again that actually the operational challenges that Wi-Fi present is something that's it's a major headache, and especially in certain environments, manufacturing being a key one, of course, where a cloud-based controller with that analytics and telemetry really is a bit of a game changer. So, I mean, having said that, what plans do you have for Mist and the AI platform that provides across our enterprise portfolio?
Yeah, so we're investigating that literally as we speak. And just a few weeks ago, I had delivered a couple of the Mist wireless access points to trial out, actually. So we really like the look of the insights, especially with things like guest users, temporary contractors, maybe people that aren't, full-time Aston Martin permanent staff. We've got a lot of visitors coming and going in all of our sites, really. So to have that sort of analytics there to see, where people are going, what they're doing, what they need access to, that is really quite exciting for us. So to give you an example, lunchtimes then in the main factories in Gaydon or St Athan, a lot of the technicians need to finish at a very specific time because otherwise the production is a bit fragmented. So we have scenarios where the restaurants are highly populated 1 minute and then nothing the next. So if we can maybe look at some of the location analytics, privacy aside, but just looking at the sort of population density of certain locations, if we can have some real-time information on that, it could really help us drive how the production runs break times, for example, or potentially splitting up break times, that sort of thing. It's just one small example. And with the sort of social distancing and things that are going on now, I think not just IT, but a lot of areas of the business, like production, even security, they can make use of that analytics. So it's really exciting times for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's great for the Juniper colleagues listening. That we often think of location-based services in a certain vertical that would make sense, but actually, it's right across the spectrum as we move into this this world post-COVID and the lockdown.
Absolutely.
You mentioned earlier about a small team. That's a common theme as well amongst customers that I talk to is having to do more with less resource to an extent. So how are you, in particular, how are you leveraging automation and some of the benefits that can bring?
So we're starting to use automation techniques such as infrastructure as code, taking the concept beyond static templates. So historically, you would have a switch that is based on a template, rather than having sort of one big config and you cut and paste and highlight the bits you want to change and copy and paste that. We're looking at configuration snippets then. So for example, if you want to change the NTP server, for example, it's just a very small piece of code that's held in one place. It's version controlled. If we change it, we deploy that to all of the devices in one hit. I think we've got about 167 or so switches now. So if I was to change that NTP server, yes, I could change a template, but I've still got to roll that out to everything, and it's still one big template to change. So if we can take the config snippet and say, okay, here's my one piece of code, and it's actually just one line, right? Set system services, NTP server. If I can change that in just one place, like I said, it's all version controlled, and off we go. Perfect. So that's a good kind of idea of what we're trying to achieve. It's just one small example, but we're looking at obviously other bits and pieces. The main challenge, though, is absolutely culture shift. It's coming, but there's always that temptation to say, oh, okay, we've got a specific problem. We buy a tech product to then solve that problem. Where in actual fact, we've got the technology there already. The Junos operating system is great for that automation. The XML base output from some of the RPCs. I won't get too technical, but it absolutely lends itself to scripting, to automation, to event-driven operational scripts, that sort of thing. So it's coming slowly, but automation, we need to do automation for the right reasons. Because if we don't, you can very quickly fix a network with automation. On the other hand, you can very quickly destroy the network with automation. So we're just making sure we're using automation for the right reasons and in the right scenarios. But yeah, it's coming, and we're doing really well.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, you've inadvertently done a fantastic job in sort of pitching the business case and the challenge around another recent acquisition we made, which is Apstra. So that's all about closed loop, intent-based automation of the data center in particular. So exactly that scenario you're talking about, being able to bring that. So
exactly. I mean, we're trying to sort of get into that idea of what you want and what have you got. So sort of a desired state versus an observed state. And we're just sort of iterating between the two, really. Once you kind of got that nailed down, it makes life a lot simpler to say, well, that's what I'm aiming for because that's what we've defined and that's what I've got. So how do I make the two match? And if that means to start with doing something manually, okay, that's fine. But then look at automating that cycle between the two. So exciting times.
Totally get it. Okay, so just in terms of wrapping things up, we talked about a few of the key sort of macro trends. It is another one for you, which is the cloud,
right?
And how Aston Martin and you and your team sort of harnessing the real benefits and capabilities that the cloud can bring.
Right. So it's quite a timely question, really, because we're actually in the middle of a quite a major ERP migration to the cloud. It'll be a software as a service, a product, of course. It replaces a number of fragmented products that we've got currently internally. So that's quite a large project. And it means then that internet connectivity for every site, not just the main factories, has to be absolutely key. We can't get away from that. Historically, if you don't have an internet connection it doesn't stop production. Because you can kind of carry on. I mean, yes, you don't get emails. Yes, you don't make phone calls. And yes, it is a pain for the office users. But when you host stuff internally, you still got production can still run. Yeah. Now, moving to the cloud brings about some great advantages, yes. But if that goes wrong, it has the potential to really be quite damaging. And so a lot of in-house systems that we've got, for example, our PLM platform, so that's CAD, CAE, so computer-aided design engineering, is got huge compute and storage requirements that don't really suit public cloud offerings. Sure. So we have to consider the fact that there's always going to be data centers that we've got internally to house that compute and storage platforms. So Gaydon's recently just had its data center refresh, and St Athan is actually mid-cycle. Even though we hear of St Athan as quite a new project, it's been ongoing for the last 3 years. I mean, I've been at Aston for just coming up 5 years now, and it started not long after I started. So that refresh cycle is coming up as well. So if we can move our systems that need to be hosted internally across those two data centers using something like VXLAN, EVPN, that kind of thing, it means then that we're using the private cloud in the truest sense of the word, not just a server in a cupboard somewhere. So again, it's exciting times for us. I keep saying that, but with the right technology, it's Juniper based at both data centers. So even if the storage and compute is sort of different vendors, if we can have a sort of a common technology underlying, again, it gets back to what we said at the beginning about the experience for the end users.
Daryl, listen, really appreciate the insight and the time you've taken. I found it fascinating, and just thanks once again for your trust and business with Juniper. And I look forward to catching up with you again, maybe in person over a beer at some point.
Absolutely, yeah. Look forward to it. Thanks very much. Yeah.
Thanks.